Kate was very artistic and very girly. She always wanted to be drawing or painting and dressing up. And she was a very good kid. She always wanted to do the right thing and make me and everybody else happy. She loved her brother and he loved her. And Peter, I feel like he was talking at like 14 months and full sentences and reading by the time he was 2. He was just a very smart kid. It was like a really weird day. I was trying to take them to Erie to meet their dad, and my dog ran away, which wasn't unusual, but it was like I was in a hurry and I was in a bad mood. I hadn't had a break in a couple of weeks, and I just wanted to get them there because I was going to have a whole week to myself. So I finally found my dog, and by that point I had to give the dog a bath because she had like gotten into God only knows what. And so I was just in a super bad mood, and I'm driving them to Erie and like being really just bitchy. And it wasn't even their fault, it was just whatever. So then we get to Erie, and Peter had fallen asleep on the way, and he woke up when I got off the exit, and he just started crying, which is really unlike him. And he wouldn't tell me why, and Kate was like, aren't you excited? We're going to see Daddy. We're going to go, to Daddy's for a week and whatever. And he just cried, and we met at Panera Bread. And Peter he stopped crying, but he wouldn't really talk. And then they got ready to go, and he wouldn't say goodbye to me. And they got in the car and left, and, I assumed that, I was going to see them in a week. And then I called Steve for some reason, like probably an hour later. And he didn't answer, which is weird. So I texted him, and then I called again. I never heard from him, and then I started to get worried. So I called his boyfriend, and he said he wasn't home, and he would, try to call him. So I dropped him off probably around 4 or 4:30, and then by like 6:30 or 7, I was like freaking out. So then I started calling the police. So I called every state police between Erie and Buffalo, and they all said nothing had been reported, and it would probably be fine. And then finally at like 8 o'clock, Steve called me and said that they had been in an accident, and he said, I think Kate and Peter are dead. That night, after I knew what had happened, I was on the phone with my dad, kind of freaking out, like I don't know what to do now because I'm a stay-at-home mom. That's my purpose in life, and my kids are dead, so what do I do? And he was like, you have to keep going, you have to keep going for them, you have to let people know what amazing people they were, and you have to memorialize them. And I was like, I just remember laying in bed, I don't know why I was even trying to sleep because that was stupid, but laying in bed thinking, how do you memorialize someone? Like the only way I know is you like put a stone in a cemetery or build a monument or something. And then I was thinking about like all the things that they had wanted to do that I didn't do for them, or that I promised them someday we would do. And the one thing that kept coming to my mind was that they really wanted a treehouse. And I think part of it was because I used to read the Magic Treehouse books, and they loved them. And they used to pretend they were Jack and Annie. And so they wanted their own treehouse, and I was like, I don't know how to build a treehouse, so maybe someday. But then I thought, well, maybe I could build them a treehouse. Everybody I knew was calling and asking, like, what can we do to help? What do you need? And I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do. I was like, we'll tell people to start raising money for a playground. And so people really seemed to like get into it because they felt like it was something they could do to help. After a lot of debate and investigation and things, we picked this spot in Frick Park because, I don't know, it just seems like it's a sort of a remote location that's not really in anyone's backyard, but yet it's accessible, and it's near the environmental center, which burned down like 10 years ago, and now they're going to rebuild. And when they rebuild that, it's going to bring a lot of kids for different classes and camps and things, and then when they're there, they can come down and use the treehouse. Okay, so now there's this thing called the deck that's in this location, and it needs to come down anyway, so we're gonna remove the current deck, or at least part of it, and try to use the wood from the existing structure for the new structure. And there's a big oak tree here that needs to come down, so they're going to try to use as much of that as possible. And ideally, we'd like to use only wood from Frick Park to build the treehouse. Right now, we're just trying to figure out the the exact design. We've had a few concept designs and one that we're sort of going with, but it needs to be refined a little bit. We've raised like somewhere in the neighborhood of $100,000. The current design's budget is $600,000, so we either have to scale back our design or do a lot of fundraising. $600,000 seems like a lot of money. I just have to dig deep and find the energy to keep going.